Liberty Nation. Truth is making a comeback.
Hi, this is Tim Donner with Liberty Nation TV's Roundtable, and if you've ever paid attention to those Trump campaign rallies that did and still do attract adoring throngs of Trump supporters, you'd know that the Trump theme song is from the Rolling Stones. The lyrics, "You can't always get what you want, but if you try sometimes, you might find you get what you need." There are many ways that can be interpreted, and here to analyze how that theme has played out in the Donald Trump presidency are LibertyNation.com legal affairs editor Scott Cosenza, our political correspondent Graham Noble, and national correspondent Sarah Cowgill. And Graham, we'll start with you. In this Trump era, who's not getting or can't always get what they want?
Well, Tim, where do I start with that? I mean, the obvious answer is that everybody who is against the president is not getting what they want. And since we're on the subject of Rolling Stones songs, and this particular song that we're actually referring to, I think it's interesting to note that Keith Richards, who is not a big fan of Trump, is obviously not getting what he wants, because Trump keeps using that song, of course. So that must be particularly irksome for him.
I'm sure.
Other than that, I mean, I could go down the list of people who are not getting what they want, but I think the main point here is that Trump's most staunch opponents, not only on the left, but actually some on the right as well, the so-called never Trumpers, who kind of seem to be rapidly becoming an extinct species, but you know, some of them are still hanging on there stubbornly. And of course, they're not getting what they want, because what all of those people who oppose the president really want is they want failure. They wanted 4 years of utter misery and chaos and strife. They wanted people to lose their jobs, Americans to lose their jobs, Americans to lose their homes. They wanted wages to stagnate, possibly go down. They wanted the stock market to crash. They wanted international strife and war. They wanted ISIS to come back and regroup and reclaim their territory there in Syria and Iraq. They wanted those things. They wanted failure. They wanted America to become like you know, the grapes of wrath, or they wanted The Walking Dead. They wanted those are the kinds of things they wanted, and so. Yes, all of those people, the left in particular, the Democratic Party in particular, and their shills in the media, they are not getting the utter failure and chaos that they wanted.
So, Scott, you're next. Going back to the "you can't always get what you want" lyrics, Scott, who's in this Trump era, who's getting what they need?
Number one with a bullet, Tim, is Rachel Maddow, is getting exactly what she needs. And rounding out the list that she heads is Stephen Colbert, Jimmy Kimmel, Seth Meyers, Jimmy Fallon, James Corden, Letterman, Bill Maher, you name it.
Don't put Jimmy Fallon in with the rest of them. Please don't do that.
Okay, fine.
He doesn't deserve that stink.
He does not.
I'll remove him. But the rest, they're getting exactly what they want. They have a unlimited supply provided by Donald Trump himself, of course, not to mention the ridiculous collusion narratives that the papers are helping with on an almost daily basis. But it's sort of a perfect storm of content for them. And so they're the big winners. In fact, the whole MSNBC slate, I would say, is probably the number one gift receivers. But all the late night folks are equally, you know, the well is deep that they draw from because of Donald Trump and the treatment that the legacy media is giving him.
Well, I have to admit, when I conceived of this approach to the Trump presidency, comparing it to the theme song, I never expected that Graham and Scott would give virtually identical answers to who's not getting what they want, but who is getting what they need. Because you've you both listed almost exclusively leftists, but let's move to you, Sarah. With Donald Trump in the White House, are the ordinary folks getting what they want, what they need, both, or neither?
Oh, we're getting the entire song out here. I just spent a couple hours with who I refer to as my liars roundtable. Well, actually, they gave me the name, so I'm not defaming anybody. Americans in the Midwest and the Heartland, we're all about coming to the table. We are all about the DACA deal. Let's do a deal and move on. We're not going to get what we want. They're not going to get what they want, but we will get what we need if we just do this. And America is happy with Trump. They're not happy with the left. Nobody's happy with the left. The left isn't even happy with the left. But Americans, and especially in the heartland, through these flyover states that everybody wants to ignore, we're all sitting around getting a little giggle on and doing our happy dance every time the left fails. And they have to come to the table some way, somehow, and give him the props. I mean, he might be their monster, but I love that monster.
All right, so now we're open for any additional comments from any of you. Graham, Scott, Sarah?
Well, I think it's coming back to what I was saying, in fact, referring to what you mentioned about the comparison between my list there and Scott's list. I mean, in a way, we are both absolutely right, but for slightly different reasons. Obviously, the people in the media do love, they're loving this Trump presidency because it's giving them something to talk about, and it's giving them fodder for their somewhat off-color jokes, which they often are. But it's giving them something to talk about, and it's great for them. It's kind of, I use the analogy going back to the days of Jon Stewart hosting The Daily Show back when George W. Bush was president. And I used to watch that show every night, and I thought it was hilarious. And of course, he made fun of George Bush constantly, but he was funny. He didn't do it in a nasty, kind of hateful way like so many of the comedians, so many of the left-wing comedians do now. But my point is that I stopped watching that show, and I believe probably a number of other people did the same. I stopped watching it the moment that Barack Obama won the Democratic nomination, and he was running for president, and he said some really stupid things. I mean, who can forget 57 states and all that kind of stuff? And it became clear to me that Jon Stewart at that point had decided that he was going to put politics before comedy, and he was not going to drink from that deep well of stupidity that Obama gave him. And at that point, I decided to stop watching his show. So yeah, Trump gives these people ratings, but ultimately they still hate him because he is succeeding, and they so wanted him to fail.
I don't think they're
57 states. I mean, that's ridiculous. Everybody knows there's 54, but apparently Obama didn't. Sarah?
I don't think they're getting the ratings. I think they're running out of stuff to say. They have been at it now for 16, 17 months, and it isn't making a dent. In fact, it's doing the exact opposite. And when, the big guys in the cushy offices in the skyscrapers are looking at numbers and going, hey, what happened here? That's not going to be good. That's why you got Jimmy Kimmel on the apology tour. It's just going to happen. They're not doing well, even though they're being fed, they're trying to feed others that, that dish served cold. And unfortunately, Trump's serving it to them first and foremost. I mean, we are winning this. The conservatives are winning in this war at this time. You may not think that if you watch mainstream media, but the conservatives are winning. And if you speak to them one-on-one, they're not watching, and they're tuning in to what Trump does through alternate means. One of them, Liberty Nation, just saying.
I wonder if the voters out there feel that they got what they want, and the politicians in Washington got what they need. The voters got someone who would go to Washington and shake things up, and the politicians got what they need, which is someone coming to Washington to shake them up. Comments on that?
Oh, and provide the big skirt for all those ninnies to hide under. You know, they can always point if things go wrong that it was a Trump thing and he did it. But in reality, a lot of them skated in on his coattails, and they may be peeking around the sides of those coattails right now, but I think they're embracing the idea that it's going to give them a pass and it's going to help them in the long run. I'm pretty sure they're happy, even if they do want to grumble here and there to make some sort of a statement on the record.
Okay, Scott, I'll give you the last word.
The body blow to the sort of body comedic that we've seen now, where the likes of these people don't go for a laugh primarily that can be political, but go for a political jab that may be humorous, is significant and profoundly damaging to the Republic. And I don't know that there's any coming back from it in the near term.
I have the sense that the four of us are not going to run out and make sure our DVRs record Jimmy Kimmel tonight. But I think...
Lost me forever. I'll never watch I won't give him a chance at all. It's not even a question of maybe. I just am not interested at all. No, thank you.
I'll put it this way. Remember when late night comedy used to actually be funny, Graham?
Yeah.
It's unfortunately I'm not in a position to say that I will never watch Jimmy Kimmel again, because in all honesty, I have never watched Jimmy Kimmel. I've never once seen his show. I mean, I know who he is, and I see the stupid things that he says because I see the clips on television or on the internet, and the occasional silly tweet from him. But I have never watched his show, and I don't have any intention of changing that particular habit of mine.
Jimmy Kimmel's first television show was on Win Ben Stein's Money, which was he co-starred alongside Ben Stein, son of Herb Stein, Nixon's Council of Economic Advisors. Ben Stein, for a long time, wrote the Ben Stein's Diary, the American Spectator. He's a pretty huge conservative. It shocks me then that Jimmy Kimmel is so comfortable not being a big-time lefty. That's fine. But then basically ascribing the worst and most disgusting of motivations to anything conservative. And that's why I can't abide giving him a chance. And I'm not like frothing at the mouth. I would never write a letter to or an email to one of his sponsors to say, pull your sponsorship. I don't care. I'm just moving on. And he'll just never get a second of my, viewing habits.
Well, we've run the full gamut here from Donald Trump to Jimmy Kimmel, and I thank each of you for your comments, Scott and Graham and Sarah. And I'm sure that we'll have many compelling future discussions like this on Liberty Nation TV. I'm Tim Donner, and this is LNTV.
Liberty Nation. News and commentary, minus the propaganda. LibertyNation.com.